Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Financially Fit Podcast. We're taking a break from our normal financial workouts to address something urgent. The federal government shutdown and how it's affecting nonprofits and small businesses. So, even if you've been building lean, tracking your numbers, running your business with discipline, an event like this can truly take a toll on a business and uh, knock you off balance. So, federal contracts are stalling, payments are paused, grants are being delayed, and for some communities, the demand on nonprofits are actually what is the only thing keeping those communities thriving. So when money stops flowing, there's sometimes is a complete shock to the system and a lot of communities that are dependent upon that money. So I know we've talked a lot about small businesses and we've been talking about how you scale a business and some of that on our prior episodes, but today we're going to take a pause and we're going to talk about the government shutdown that's been going on for, gosh, a little over 20 plus days. And it's sounding like this may even roll into November. So I'm very concerned about the effects that this will have on our nonprofit system, on our, some of our small businesses. They're dependent on government funding or government contracts, or even dependent on federal workers or that are customers of theirs. So, so today, we're going to break down why the shutdown matters, the specific ways it impacts nonprofits and small businesses, and most importantly, what you can do if you're impacted so you uh, don't just survive the storm, but come out stronger. And that's the goal is like, with this podcast, we really want to give you the tools to help you come out stronger. That's why we named it Financially Fit, right? We know that there's always ability to get stronger, more fit, just like when you go to the weight room, right? And you set those goals on January 1st, those New Year resolutions, right? Your goal is to get healthier, to get stronger. And that's the goal here on this podcast. We want to help you build a healthy business. We want to help you build a stronger business. And most importantly, we want to help you build a resilient business. And right now, we need that resiliency. So, um, why the shutdown matters? Shutdown today matters because, when government shuts down, federal agencies can't release funds, they can't approve new contracts, they can't process, invoices that have maybe have come through that are reimbursements that have typically been routine requests. So for nonprofits, this means grant reimbursements stop, even if you've already done the work. Um, Programs like Head Start or community service initiatives risk interruption, and that is a complete shock to our system. I mean, think about all the kids that are dependent on, Head Start to get to school, and that programming, and that being an organization that's highly dependent on government funding. Um, for small businesses, especially those with federal contracts, it means invoices sit unpaid. Future opportunities get put on hold. The Small Business Administration, often pauses new loans and approvals. And with your customer base, including federal, potentially federal employees, you know, the miss of paychecks is a ripple effect on revenue as well if they're customers of yours. So the bottom line is the shutdown can turn a stable operation into a cash flow crisis overnight. And if you've listened to any of our prior episodes, we've talked a lot about how cash flow is so core to a business, right? Cash will always be king, and being able to monitor that cash to understand the flow of cash within your business is what helps a business thrive. So, having something like this, a government shutdown that could have been prevented if the two sides weren't at a gridlock and they could come together, you know, th- that is what potentially could put, some of these organizations out of business, yet alone, slowing down future programming or other audacious ideas that they may have had this year. So, Um, it's disappointing, but I do know that what I do know about small businesses and nonprofits is they're resilient. The owners of them, the executive directors of the nonprofits, they've been in environments like this where maybe they've lost grants or funding has gone away that they were dependent on, and they've found a way to pull through. We will find a way to pull through this, but we do need to be diligent about what's at stake here, and we need to put a plan in place and take some steps that can help us continue to right the ship. So here are some key, I want to name some key areas that are impacted. So we talked a little bit about this, but payment and contract delays, so nonprofits, grants, reimbursements are paused. You may have staff or programs running now with no money coming in. So, you know, we want to be conscious of our programming, and we want to think about what's essential. What's essential right now to keeping the lights on? Small businesses, federal contractors may be left in limbo or on delivery, with no payments issued. So, for small businesses, if you have federal contractors in your org, or you're dependent on federal contracts that are paying you money for, maybe you have a SBIR grant, and you're building some med device, hang in there. We will get through this, and we need to figure out what's essential to keep the lights on. So number two, increased demand and less resources. So as government services shrink, nonprofits see more people turning to them for help, and that's just the lay of the land of where we are, right? I think we've already seen with um, higher rent, higher gas, higher essentials, so food and such. A lot of people have been turning to these government services. I mean, even seeing with Medicaid and Medicare and some of that potentially at risk, I think that this is a very tough time for a lot of us. Uh, a, a lot of people that may be dependent on these services. So, you know, um, we need to be thinking about, if you're a food bank or how you provide housing services or educational programs and you're dependent on these federal grants, how do we still help as many people as we can without risking us going out of business, right? So we know the demand is going to be higher than the supply being the resources, and we got to figure out to a way to pull through. So lending, number three, lending and growth stalls. So SBA loans, disaster recovery funds, permits can be frozen. You know, that means you can't get approved for funding, or to expand or even process critical work paperwork, right? Um, you know, this is tough, um, and it is going to cause a lot of operational strain, sorry, which is why I go to number four, where, with a little buffer, many nonprofits and businesses are suddenly forced into survival mode, right? So that's where we are today. We're in survival mode. And if you're in denial about being in survival mode, we need to get you there, right? Because we need to start building our survival plan. So, the operational strain that's at risk is, delaying payroll, right? So you have employees in these organizations that likely may be dependent on government funding. So I talk a little bit about the SBIR, right? I work with quite a few medical device companies, and I think about, some of these med device companies that are in the very early stages. They're highly dependent on government funding to help their employees, help pay for their employees that are doing a lot of their research and development. Well, if they're not getting that government funding, or maybe they were just on the cusp of getting government funding, and then they went on pause. Now we're at a critical point where we could potentially lose that workforce, right? Um, I think the other piece is the risk of debt, right? So now, because we're losing this money, this potential government money, now we might have to lean on more debt. The nice thing is that interest rates seem to be falling, and likely will continue to fall a little bit, right? But which is going to make debt a bit cheaper. But at the end of the day, we still have to be able to pay that debt. So there's a lot of operational strain that's ahead of us, that we're probably likely already in. But I don't know when this is going to come to an end. It's sounding like this could move into November, And I think that we need to put a plan in place to think about how might this impact us for the next 60, 90 days. Because even when the government does come back, and the shutdown is over, it's not going to be just a flip of the switch and now all of that money is released. Now the government's going to have a backlog of, you know, invoices, reimbursements, contracts that they have to fulfill, that they're going to have to be working through, right? And that's going to take quite a bit of time for them to be able to get through that. So I'm with you, and now I want to talk about, what to do if you're impacted. So I think the biggest thing that I always say is communication is key. So we want to communicate early. Nonprofits, you want to contact your grant managers or your program officers and let them know the impact, request guidance, and keep records, right? We want to find other ways that we can go and build revenue, right? Maybe that's going to maybe some giving foundations and seeing if they can help you in the meantime. Maybe they might be able to give you uh, a loan that um, is favorable and has favorable terms that you can pay back once you get through this storm. Small businesses, you want to reach out to your contracting officers and procurement managers, and to clarify, what is even paused and what's still active, and have a good understanding of what's paused, how does it affect your business, and what are the levers that we can pull to counter what's being impacted. Number two is tap into emergency resources. So look for local bridge funds, through community foundations, like I mentioned, or state programs. Check with your CDFIs, credit unions, which sometimes step in with SBA funds. When SBA funds are frozen. So, we want to make sure that we have these resources at our fingertips, and hopefully we've been nurturing and building these relationships all along. I think this just goes to show how important risk management is, and understanding what levers you do have to pull. We talked a lot on past episodes about scenario-based analysis and forecasting. We never know what crises is going to come, right? It could be the pandemic, right? It could be a government shutdown. It could be um, you lose a key employee, right? That was core to your business functioning, right? Whatever that is, we don't want to ever be in a position where we're caught without a plan. So we should be managing our risks. We should be, always thinking about how does our risk continue to evolve as our business evolves, and what levers do we have to pull um, to mitigate some of those risk factors. Number three is protect your cash flow. So at this point we should pause all discretionary spending and expansion. If it's not core to the operations, and you don't have the runway to be able to use funds discretionary and being able to handle that expansion that you had planned, right now is the time to pause that. We should be prioritizing payroll, so making sure our people are paid, and any essential services. So key vendors, any of that could potentially slow our business from continue to run. Right now, I'd also, if you are a tenant and you're renting, a business space, maybe you're negotiating terms with your landlords and vendors for flexible terms. Right now is the time to turn to them and say, hey, if you've been a good standing paying renter, or paying your vendors on time, right now this is a time to lean into them and say, hey, I really need some flexibility. And likely, most times they will be willing to be flexible with you, right? So we want to make sure that we're being out in front of that. I know that, just with there being so much uncertainty on when this might be done, these are the things that we can do right now to help ourselves. Number four, diversify revenue. So, you know, for nonprofits, we should be launching emergency donor campaigns. Many donors are willing to give when a need is immediate. So right now, we should be tapping into our donor base. Hopefully, you have a CRM system of all your donors, especially the ones that are core donors for you. Right now is the time to reach out to them and ask them to help in the time of need. Small businesses, you need to shift focus to private sector clients or diversify into areas not tied to federal contracts. So right now is the time for you to, I would even move in the sense of, hey, it might take a year to clean up this government shutdown, and we might not get some of those grants that we were expecting. Right now is the time to turn to the private sector and see how we can start to build revenue in other ways. Number 5, use your voice. This is a great time to advocate, so join nonprofit coalitions or business associations that lobby for faster resolutions and emergency relief, and share your story. Policymakers respond when real impact is visible. So, share your story, share the impact that you're having in the community, and just be upfront and vulnerable and real about where you are. And then the last one is plan for the next one, right? We want to plan for the next one. So, build a 30 to 60-day reserve for core operations, reduce dependency on a single funding stream or client, and then add shutdown risk into your strategic planning, right? We know that this is not the first time that we've had a government shutdown, and this certainly won't be the last time. So we want to lean in and make sure that we are adding these risk into our scenario-based analysis and forecast to make sure that we can overcome the storm the next time that the storm comes, because this won't be the last storm that we'll face. The key is making sure that we're prepared for the next one. So, reflection questions, the things I want you to ask yourself. I want you to ask yourself 2 questions. What percentage of your revenue depends on federal funds, contracts, or clients tied to the government? So I'll say that again. What percentage of your revenue depends on federal funds, contracts, or clients tied to government? Hopefully it's less than 50%. If it's more than 50%, we have some issues, and we need to figure out how to fix those issues. Number 2 is, if payments stop tomorrow, how many weeks could your business or nonprofit survive? So we talked about this on prior episodes where in our small business episodes around understanding your cash flow, understanding your runway, right? Right now is a perfect time for you to do this iteration and get a good understanding of where you are from a runway standpoint. So, at the end of the day, if those answers make you uneasy, now is the time to build your resilience plan. So, to close, a government shutdown is clearly, outside of your control, but how you prepare and respond is entirely within your control. So, right now is the opportunity for you to take back control. Think of this as a part of your financial fitness training: flexibility, resilience, and endurance. By diversifying and protecting cash flow and planning for emergencies, you give your organization the muscle to withstand shock like this one. Next time, we'll return to our regular financially fit lineup, diving into building systems that keep your revenue strong. But today, I want to leave you with this: stay calm, be proactive, and keep building that financial strength. And if this episode gave you clarity or helped you, share this with another nonprofit leader or a small business owner who needs to hear it. We're in this together. Keep fighting. We're going to be all right. We're going to get through this. And as I always say, it's not about how much money you make. The power is in how much money you keep. Thank you so much for tuning in today to the Financial Fit Podcast. I am your host, Andre Creighton. Be well, everyone. We're going to get through this. I'll see you on the next episode. Take care.
You know Shaletta makes you laugh, but did you know Shaletta Brundage can also make you think and boost your business? Media personality, activist, and comedian Shaletta Brundage founded Shaletta Makes Me Laugh to celebrate and share the best of Black culture. It's a podcasting platform. You can download 10 weekly podcasts hosted by African American subject experts at ShalettaMakesMeLaugh.com or wherever you find your favorite podcasts. ShalettaMakesMeLaugh.com is also a production house creating broadcast quality commercial content. And Shaletta and her team of storytellers create powerful promotional campaigns to get businesses the brand awareness they're looking for. Some of Minnesota's top businesses trust Shaletta, and you can too. Get out the word about your events and products and get in front of communities of color with ShalettaMakesMeLaugh.com. She's got the power to help your business.
Not a word about the bangs?
The smartest Wi-Fi at one price for 5 years. Guaranteed. Xfinity. Imagine that.
Ready to go? At Metro Transit, we are. With more routes to more places, easy ways to pay, and more convenient options, we're ready to go further. Go easier. Go faster. Go, go, go. And go. We're ready to go. Are you?
When she walked in on her first day at Doherty Family College at the University of St. Thomas, she didn't know a soul.
I'm Zion, and I'm a second year at DFC.
A year later, and so many changes for Zion.
I love my friends here. I couldn't do anything without them. We support each other all the time.
At Doherty Family College, Zion also finds support on the academic side. Like all DFC students, Zion can count on a team committed to her success. Doherty Family College is Minnesota's affordable private college option. DFC students earn their associate's degree and then can transition to a 4-year college or university for their bachelor's. Many are students of color or first in their family to go to college.
It's nice to see people that look like you pursuing an education, wanting to succeed academically.
Zion encourages any high school student looking for a college home to do what she did and apply to Doherty Family College.
All the support you could need is here.
Ready to make your move and experience Doherty Family College for yourself? Then schedule your visit to the Minneapolis campus at dfc.stthomas.edu/visit.